All right, everybody, it's 7 o'clock. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Hopefully everybody can hear me. We are here tonight to talk about the master plan update for Macomb Township. We're calling that Cultivate Macomb. If you have not yet, please visit the project website, cultivatemacomb.com, where you can find all the information about the project so far, and you'll be able to continue finding information as we move forward. My name is Josh Bocks. I'm the planning director here for Macomb Township. In the room with me, I have Dave Skirdo, our planning consultant, Jim Van Tifflin, who is the township engineer, and Charlie Oliver, who is on the planning commission as well as a township trustee and is also a resident of Northeast Macomb Township, which is what we're here to talk about tonight. With that, thank you guys all for joining. I'm going to go through a few slides just to give you a background on what the master plan is, and then talk about what the future might look like for the northeast portion of Macomb Township. And then we're going to open it up to discussion with all of you folks. Being that you're the residents, you're the ones that live there and own the property there. Though we're doing a survey on our master plan website, trying to figure out what the township as a whole has as a vision for that area. You guys live there every day, work there, own the land there. So we absolutely want to hear what you have to say about Northeast Macomb Township. So what is a master plan? For those of you who have joined us for some of our previous meetings, you've seen these first couple slides a number of times. But essentially a master plan is a visionary document. It discusses a lot of things, including roads, utilities. It talks about the future of the township, how you want to see it develop, what type of zoning do we need to move around maybe in the township, and ultimately how it should be developed. And lastly, it is an important role. It plays an important role in the capital improvement plan. So how the township decides to make some budget considerations, they do look at the master plan. Some of the things we've done so far for this, we've had a number of Zoom meetings similar to this, where we were opened up to the general public, where we talked about roads and utilities, recreation, trails and mobility, and demographics and land use. Again, we do have a project website. We have a survey that's on the website. We have a photo contest that's going on through the end of the month. Please participate in that. We got some great prizes for the photo contest. All of the meetings that you see listed here have been recorded and are posted on the website as well. And in the future, any information that we have to share will be posted on that website. So the next step that we're doing is meetings like we're here tonight, which is the stakeholder meetings that we're focusing in on more specific topics, tonight being the Northeast area. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk about Macomb Town Center. Last week, we did a business success stakeholder meeting where we had a number of the township developers, as well as Chamber of Commerce and the county's economic development folks. And then the last one is resident vision, where we're going to talk with some of the homeowners associations and get their views for the future. That one, for those of you who are interested, was tentatively scheduled for Thursday of this week, but it is actually going to be postponed and done at a later date, probably after the Thanksgiving holiday. The master plan overall is about a year-long process. Most of this summer, we've done a lot of the data collection, analysis, demographics, looking at different land use types and zoning that we have within the township. And now we're in step 2. We're engaging with the public, getting your input. Much of the winter months will be spent drafting the actual document itself, the master plan, followed by taking that to the board here at the township to authorize us to distribute it to our neighbors, which starts the public review period. That is a mandated period that is set forth by the state of Michigan to allow the public, as well as our neighbors and other interested agencies around Southeast Michigan, to review our draft document, provide feedback. Then we will finalize the report based on some of the feedback we get in step 5. And if everything goes well, it will be formally adopted by the township sometime this summer. So what we're here to talk about tonight, and I hope you guys are all prepared to talk. I know you're all muted right now, but I will be able to unmute you here shortly. But we're here to talk about the northeast portion of Macomb Township. If you are on the call tonight, it's probably because you either live in or own property in the map shown here. So what we want to talk about is a couple things. So one of the main things is growth within the township. If you go back and look at some of these older aerials, you see what the township looked like in 2000, and then how it grew just into 2005. You see the golf courses starting to go away here. You see some new neighborhoods in this area. If you can see the cursor that I'm using on the screen, another neighborhood here, as well as a new neighborhood here that didn't exist prior. Step forward another set of 5 years, you see continued growth in the northwest portion of the township here, as well as the golf course that I mentioned previously starting to fill in with housing. Again, some new developments starting to work their way to the northeast area, and then down off of 22 miles, some larger neighborhoods starting to develop. 2015, again, you start to see more in the northeast portion of the township filling in that didn't exist previously. A number of different developments here that weren't there just 5 years prior. And keep in mind, this is largely in a period when the economy was in a recession, and yet the township was still growing at pretty substantial rates in these areas. Again, moving forward, 2018, some more growth. It's continuing to move east in the northern portion of the township, as well as continued development in the southeast portion, excuse me. And then by 2020, we're starting to see some things develop in the town center area, as well as some smaller neighborhoods off of Card Road, and expanding the neighborhoods on the far east side of the township. And you're starting to see in this area the start of what is Stillwater Crossing community developing there. So that being said, what we're getting at here is development within the township, whether it be residential, commercial, industrial, because you could have looked at some of this industrial area as well and watched that grow over the same slides that I just went through. But what we're getting at is development is moving in the direction of the northeast portion of the township. That is really the only area left with land that is vacant enough or open enough to be developed. And so, again, that's why you guys are here tonight. We want to hear how you envision that being developed, if at all. Do you want it to remain farmland? Do you want to see housing? Do you want to see industrial developments, commercial developments? We want to get your input on that. All that being said, it's not as easy as it may sound that development keeps moving towards the northeast. There are some restrictions for development in the township, largely sewer. Jim, I don't know if you had any comments. I know we went over this slide a few weeks back, but there's limited capacity in some of these sewer lines.
Well, the sewer doesn't exist in that area of the township now, so there would have to be some effort made by the developers, the landowners of the township, to extend a rather large diameter deep sewer up that corridor to serve that area. Basically, it's up the North Avenue corridor, which is exactly where this area that we're talking about tonight would be developed eventually.
So again, that it looks like all the development is moving in that direction, but it's not going to be as easy as just continuing the pattern. There are some things we're going to run into. Another item to keep in mind, this is the floodplain. What you see on the screen now, the waterways and drains within the township in the pink area or reddish area are floodplains, which can be very difficult to build on. would be costly, would require some earthwork if it's even allowed to be developed. So that being said, again, though development is trending in that direction, there's significant challenges that would lie ahead were development to continue in the same fashion that it is now, meaning more residential neighborhoods. It would be difficult. With that, at this time, I really want to open it up to you folks. If anybody has thoughts or what they think that the township should look like, how you would like to see it develop, I'd be happy to hear that at this time. If you can raise your hand through the Zoom app, I believe it's *9 to raise your hand, and we can unmute you. Looks like the first one is Janice Kolka. Go ahead and unmute yourself and you should be able to talk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I'm Janice Kolka. I live at 24641 24 Mile Road, right down from the Olivers. And we moved out here about 5 years ago, built a house on an 8-acre property here. It was a little 1939 Sears catalog house here, and we just love the property. And part of the reason we moved out here was how open it was. So that's one of our concerns here. Like, I'm going to be right across the street from the Stillwater subdivision, I believe.
Okay.
So my concern about how much residential development out here, subdivisions, because they just keep piling them in. And we love the parks. We visited the new one out here off of 26 Mile Road, I think it used to be a horse farm. We go to the Macomb Commons. So I'd like to see it stay open, agriculture. I love it here right now. We go visit Charlie with the dogs down the street, really a wonderful area to be in. But my one concern that I've noticed out this way, because I have my 90-year-old mother and my 88-year-old father living with us, is availability of hospital. Really, there's just Henry Ford Macomb, and that's at 19 and Garfield. And then the other one's down, what's the other one? McLaren. And there's really nothing out this way for any kind of, serious medical attention, unless I'm not aware of it. So that was one of my concerns.
Okay. Thank you.
Am I making sense?
Yep, absolutely. We're taking note of everything you're saying. So
Okay.
Thank you for the comment, and please stay on for further discussion. And we're going to move on to, looks like the next person is Kim Hemi. You should be, if you unmute yourself, you should be able to talk.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for hosting us. I really appreciate it. I've been listening to the other meetings, and I find it very insightful, and I really enjoy this. One question I had right off the bat, you were talking about reviewing these master plans and going in for approval. Would this be at the Board of Trustees meeting or just at the Planning Commission meetings?
So the master plan itself is a document that is kind of championed by the Planning Commission. Ultimately, it would need to be adopted, yes, by the Board of Trustees for formal adoption. But it is, we work with the Planning Commission to develop this document.
Okay, thank you. Nothing against you, Charlie, but I tend not to listen to the planning commissions, only when I see something about Whitney Park. So I appreciate that answer. Personally, just like Janice, our family moved out here just over 4 years ago, and it was due to, the elbow room. And when we looked at the property, it was zoned for properties similar to ours, large land. And I used to live in a subdivision, and nothing against subdivisions, but that is why we moved out here. It's almost like it was mentioned at one of the board meetings with the, the new park at 26. It's almost like you're almost up north, but yet like Kroger's is right down the road and everything is just out right down the road. And it's everybody out here is very wonderful and very kind and very friendly, but we do like that elbow space ourselves. But I do have one question I would like to ask. At the corner of 24 North Avenue by the llama farm, what is going on with that property? They cleared it out, and it's always a floodplain zone. Can you answer what is going to go on with that area?
Right now, nothing has been submitted to the township. To this point, they've been clearing trees, which they can do without any kind of permit or approval from the township.
Mm-hmm.
Until somebody submits something to the township, we're not sure what ultimately they have planned for. Rumor has it they're cleared the trees to farm it, but we don't know.
Okay, I didn't know if that was privately owned land or okay, all right. Okay, that was all I had. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have any others who would like to provide some thought or comment or ask questions? If so, please raise your hand. I guess one thing to state, just to kind of further the discussion, we showed some of the development moving towards the northeast. As you looked at those aerials, you saw, especially in the northwestern portion of the township, it was a continuous pattern of growth, neighboring subdivision after subdivision, and that's typically how it's done. In that, as Jim mentioned earlier, the sewage, there would need to be some new upgrades or new installation up there. A lot of times that's how development would take place. So typically that you would see neighborhoods expanding right next to neighborhoods that exist. That being said, for those people who may want to see more development up there, if there's also a lot of farmers up there and they may not want to stop farming. So this has to be, looked at from all angles. Charlie, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you have a farm in the area, and if the property owners further north of you were looking to develop, in some ways you can be their roadblock if you choose to not develop. And so I think as being good neighbors, I think if not only are you encouraged to provide us your feedback, communicate with each other. If you're in a position like Charlie, where maybe you do, maybe you don't want to someday develop your property into something other than a farm. I don't know if you had any thought or comment on that, Charlie.
Yeah, Josh, thank you. I got a couple thoughts on that. Macomb started as a total farming community, and it didn't start with these houses. And what generally happens in agriculture, and what we see happening today in agriculture, is the younger generation are not interested in it because it is long hours and risk. It's a lot. The risk is probably more than the hours today because of the capital you need and the cost to operate a farm today. It's not mom and pop anymore. It's agribusiness. But what happens is these farmers, me included, start aging out and finding out that their offspring don't want to farm. It's a little bit tricky to sell your farm to somebody younger that wants to be in agribusiness because there's a couple of obstacles. One, they don't have the capital. And two, they don't have the raw experience. Farming there's a lot of book today. There's more book work than ever, but there's still an extreme amount of experience needed to be in the agriculture business. So that it runs us to a position where many farmers get into and are today, which is the their children don't want to do it. Basically, it's their retirement. And the township has offered the community growth by bringing in sanitation and utilities. So it makes it appealing for developers to build homes. And next thing you know, you got developers knocking at your door and you're retired and homes are being built. There was a program in the state of Michigan that allowed farmers to preserve their land, but it was very limited in the amount of money that they were paying for the property. And what ended up happening, the developers paid more than the state was allowing you to buy it to preserve the land. So the growers ended up selling to the developers. It's still all business at the end of the day,
Sure.
Sadly.
Sure.
I don't think any farmer in the community would ever entertain, not entertain, I should say, the community buying some of their property or the state buying some of their property to preserve it. But they're gonna have to pay the going rate. It's, again, this is the way it's gonna work. And I even think about at a state level, if there's any kind of grants that maybe we can preserve some of these farms. But the owners are still gonna have to be compensated. They're just, I don't think many owners are just gonna give you their land because that's their retirement. So that's kind of a problem that we in Macomb Township have run across as owning land and farming on it. Because the biggest is the young just don't want to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, and there's a few farmers that are fortunate enough to have their children that want to get involved or maybe even find a buyer, but it's not the norm in Macomb Township. And up north, it's more common, but down here, because the high values of land, it's very costly.
Yeah, and as you said, there's probably more books today than there ever was in the past, but it's probably some of that generational knowledge that
Oh, yeah.
is required to keep
Yep.
that stuff going. So, thank you, Charlie. Amelia, looks like you have your hand up. If you unmute yourself, you should be able to speak. Amelia, go ahead. Looks like you're unmuted. If you have maybe turned your microphone up or anything. Not sure why we're not hearing you. Well, I guess while we're working on that, anybody else?
I think Kogerman was trying to get on. I thought
John, if you can unmute yourself, you should be able to talk.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I noticed that I joined this late, so I don't know if you already had bring out some information for this. But I noticed that there's really no farming operations north of 24 Mile Road to 26 Mile Road. Yes, there's a bunch of fields and stuff. Did you guys ever have any planning to turn some of the stuff along North Avenue into commercial property along North Avenue?
I think there are some active farms north of 24. Charlie being one of them is north of, well, I guess you're
we got property north
south
of
and
24.
north of 24,
Yeah,
but
we got property up to Chapman Road.
and I know there's some horse farms up there as well that do some farming.
There's, if I could
Go ahead.
chime in here, there's north of 24, there's 2, 3, there's 4 active horse farms, so what you might be seeing is hay fields that's not cultivated. But there's only probably, what I know of, North Avenue on the west side, north of like Chapman Road, on the west side of North Avenue up to 26, there's probably maybe 300 acres or probably less that's not cultivated. And that was some pretty tricky ground to farm. And that's why the growers never farmed it. But you take up 26 Mile Road, you got farmers raising soybeans, you got a very, very large sod farm up there. And if you keep going west, you got a farmer that is growing produce. 25 Mile Road, you got two farmers growing produce. I think the Thompson family that's on tonight is growing produce. So there's quite a lot of active agriculture north of 23, actually.
Well, I was referring to on North Avenue, mostly the west side of the road from the old Stink Farm to 26 Mile Road. There's really nothing grown there, and there's like 4 or 5 houses the whole way.
Yeah, and I know what you're talking about. That's a strip of land that just never really got farmed a lot. The land is, it drains because the river's there, but it's heavy in nature, and we call heavy, that's kind of clay ground. And the farmers just never farmed it.
Yeah, and John, to your point, and Charlie kind of touched on it, the river does run very close to that area, so there's a lot of floodplain there. I know you mentioned you were a little bit late getting on. We did show some maps that show kind of some of the difficulties in developing some of this area. There is a lot of floodplain in that area, which would make it difficult in some cases to develop. But you do bring up a good question, and I'd be curious to hear some of the others weigh in on it. That there's very little to no commercial properties in that area. Is that something that, as residents, you folks would like to see? I know somebody mentioned previously that they like that Kroger is not too far away. Are there other commercial developments you'd like to see actually in the Northeast area, or do you prefer to kind of have it the way it is right now?
Well, if you're referring to me, I would assume some kind of growth there, because if you pass 23 Mile Road, you can't really get any gas until you hit Armada. And far as maybe a restaurant or a party store, you have to wait till 29 Mile to get one.
Right. Okay. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Let's see here. Sarah, it looks like you unmute yourself. You should be able to talk. Sarah, are you there?
There's Kogerman again. They're trying to get on.
All right. Gary, if you unmute yourself, you should be able to talk. We'll try to go back to Sarah. Gary? Yeah, no, you took your hand down.
That's it. Can you hear?
Are we there?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah, this is Gary Kogerman. I own the sod farm on 26 Mile Road. And I got to agree with Charlie 100% that the younger generation is not coming up so much into the farming industry. And what we've seen here, we've had a few developers come in this area and would like to develop this, but the problem we're having is the density of the buildings that you're allowing per acre. And right now, it's not feasible for them to come in and do it. And what the master plan is going to be, I don't know what you're thinking is of that. And how much the township can handle in this end. I'm not sure if the water, the sewers, we have gas in this area here. So, that's my thought on that there. I mean, we got development right on our fence rows, but yet we can't develop because we're zoned a lot lighter density. So,
So if the density was increased, you would be interested in developing?
well, I'm sure I'd get a lot more offers than what I've had. And the ones that we're offering were kind of laughable, but it is our retirement. I mean, yes, we work hard for a living, but you still can't put enough away for retirement just on farming. A farmer's retirement is his land.
Right. Okay, well, I appreciate that. Go back to Sarah. I don't know if you can unmute yourself now and we'll try to see if we can hear you again. Looks like you're unmuted, but I'm still not hearing you. All right. Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Development in the area? Kim, should be able to unmute yourself.
Yes, hi. It was mentioned about maybe having restaurants or party stores and everything else. And I think that would be nice, as long as it's just not like on every corner, like we're seeing, you know, down a little further south. You know, I think a lot of us do enjoy this wide open space, and we don't want it overdeveloped. I mean, you can just, you know, hop a mile or two over and you know, I mean, we have a dollar store within a couple of miles of each other at this point. I wouldn't want to see that personally. And I have to agree with Charlie. I had a conversation a while back with him. My family used to own the farms across Lakeside Mall, and my cousins owned a pumpkin farm where Dave and Buster's is, and change is inevitable. And you know, and that will happen. But the thing is there any way, or I guess it just depends on who it's sold to, that maybe this area be zoned for larger properties with homes, as opposed to subdivisions on top of subdivisions on top of subdivisions? Is that something that could be, you know, is that something that could happen, or is that just, you know, just the price of progress?
Well, there's all kinds of ways we can zone it. You know, in terms of density, we can restrict, you know, maybe one unit per 2 acres or 1 unit per 3 acres, which would kind of force that larger estate home, or even that home that's a little bit more private, like you're talking about. Then the trick really is there, finding the right buyer, finding the right developer who's willing to make those type of developments. The property is probably going to be, you know, have a higher price tag than what some of the houses that you're seeing right now in the township.
Sure.
Just in order to make it feasible for a developer to do that. But absolutely, that, you know, those are possibilities.
Okay, thank you.
I think she found
Sarah, if we can try this one more time. I see your hand is still up. If you can unmute yourself, I'll try. You there, Sarah? Not quite sure why we're not hearing you this evening. You know, it was mentioned, Kim mentioned it, and John did earlier, about some commercial developments. If there were commercial developments, what type of things would you guys like to see in the area? More restaurant, or more of a convenience store, party store, or, you know, a CVS or a Rite Aid type store? Or what type of other developments would you be interested in commercial wise? Anyone?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, John.
It's Johnny, yes. I would like to see probably like a restaurant or like I said, maybe a fueling station.
Okay, and where do you live, John, roughly?
I'm roughly 24 and a half in North Avenue. I'm
Okay.
I'm just north of the Kingdom Wind Farm.
Okay. Anybody else? Kim, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I know I keep jumping in. I agree with John. Nothing too crazy, like I mentioned before. You know, I don't think we want to see party stores in every corner or CVS on every corner and a dollar store. If we could just have something a little bit more isolated, maybe one shopping plaza that offers maybe a little bit of everything from, you know, pizza to, you know, a sit-down family restaurant to, you know, maybe a gas station or a bank. I think that would be, you know, very acceptable in this area for the folks that live in this area, but those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Looks like Marina.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm talking about the northeast conduit. I live on Foss Road. I have about 18 and a half acres. In this area here, I would really not like to see too much going in. I'd rather see the town center more or less have, like somebody was saying, like small restaurants or stores in the downtown, which I hope would be downtown future Macomb Township. I really don't want to see that stuff. Too much of it, because I think there's enough already. If you go 23 Mile Road, everything is right there. And that's, you know, I don't think we need it. I would like to see this area less developed and more trails. And I liked what somebody said, if they're going to put some divisions in, make them that they're farther apart. You know, that they're like you said, 2 to I don't know what is there, 2 to 3 to an acre or something like that. I don't know what you said before previously, but I'm tired of seeing one subdivision on top of another subdivision because on Foss Road, the congestion already at the end of Foss Road and 24 is terrible. Card Road getting on to 24 is already is terrible as it is.
All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Janice. Go ahead.
Hi. I agree with her. Marina is her name. I think that town center would be a really great place for some of this. I mean, like I said, I'm at oh, I just went blank. 24 in Fairchild, and in 2 minutes I can be up at 23 in Gratiot, and there's everything under the sun there. Or like you said, go to 23 Mile Road. And I just think to keep it, like she said, with trails out this way, if I could see a gas station up North Avenue like John is talking about, because there was really nothing up to way up that way. But I just think that's why people are here, is for the way it is now of being open. And I wouldn't mind trails over this way. I keep wondering about that Macomb Trail. I've yet to kind of get there because there's really nothing this way for us to go to. I have to, you know, really drive, you know, 6 miles to Macomb Commons and stuff. Is it that far? No. But since we have the area, you know, it might be an opportunity that we could come up with something, you know, for this area.
Sure. All right.
But I think that Macomb, that downtown thing for around that area, I think that would be a really great idea, because, you know, Romeo's got a downtown, Rochester's got a downtown. There really is no one place to go around here. I came from Grosse Pointe, Harper Woods area. They even had their little, you know, Mack Avenue. We had at least a vision of a downtown, if you want to call it. So I think that'd be kind of a great idea.
Sure. Thank you for that.
That's my 2 cents or 3.
We appreciate that. Thank you very much. Marina, go ahead again.
Okay. I just want to reiterate what she said, but I would somehow like to see that these trails somehow in this master plan are connected. I would really love to see for schools being connected somehow. You can walk from one school to another park, to the town center, to one park, to that new, my daughter and I walk that 26 mile road, that nature trail. That's wonderful. I'd love to see that be bigger. I would love to see those facilities in there be used. I was walking around and thought, wouldn't it be cool to use these facilities and have a barn dance or have a gathering or something? I think we have a lot of opportunity out here, but it just needs to be developed, correctly. I would just, 1 mile walking is not enough. I like to see something you got 5 or 6, and this is connected to here, and pathways that you can walk, like where I live on Foss Road, a pathway where I could walk to the downtown area, where I could walk to the other parks. And that's all I need to say.
Thank you.
Yep.
Sarah, we'll try this again. If you can unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me this time?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, just had to go into my settings. Sorry about that, folks.
No problem.
So I live at 53075 North Avenue. I'm right on the corner of 24 and North Avenue. So, and I've been here for over 50 years. My mother and my grandparents grew up out here as well. So we're longtime township residents. I remember when the Olivers moved out here and started their farm. So I would like to see this area stay somewhat undeveloped, but definitely I'm agreeing with a lot of what these people are saying is think about what you want and get some good planning for the connecting of some parks and things like that. I also agree, yes, up at 26 Mile Road would be an ideal setting for gas station, party store, couple strip malls maybe. We used to have them way up there. There used to be some local stores right there that were all family owned, and they had gas and everything else. But we don't need it on every single corner. I recall many years ago with one of the first subdivisions that went into this township down by 24 and Romeo Plank area. And a very good friend of mine moved into that, and they had come from Warren. And like many of these people that have been speaking tonight, they move out here and then suddenly, I need a gas station on the corner. I can't go too far. And it's like, well, why'd you move out in the country? So I like what the people are saying, that you really like the area and the space. And I think that that's an ideal goal that this township should try to stick with versus making this a whole corridor all up and down North Avenue and all up and down Romeo Plank to make it all commercial. Because some of us are long-term, lifelong residents, and we'd like to keep it that way.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Glad we could finally hear from you. Mr. Tuckfield.
Hey, Josh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Very good. I just had a question as I was listening to some of the people talking here. And let me say, Josh, I appreciate you putting this on tonight. It's good to hear so many people chiming in. We've had a couple of these so far. And I got in a few minutes after you started, but sounds like there's been some really good discussion on here. And I think that's what these are for. And I know it's really helpful to me. But one of the things that I'm curious about as I'm listening, and if people don't know me, I sit on the planning commission with Charlie. This is very helpful to me as I look at the master plan and what we're thinking about. One of the things we've heard from those who are interested in developing in the northeast quadrant, not necessarily people who live there, but one of the things we hear is the idea of trying to put in developments that take up less footprint, but make up for it with density within the footprint that they are. So for example, some type of senior facility that doesn't take up a lot of acreage, and so it can work out the units per acre but is able to give a better yield for the developer. And then I also hear something similar to along the line of what Kim was talking about with more of the estate homes where they're more expensive, but they're probably closer together. So it keeps the unit density down, but there's maybe less uninterrupted green space. I'm curious what people think about the balance between higher density but more green space versus less green space but lower density, and kind of that counterintuitive way that ends up working out. Do people have a preference between the two? Like, is there a feeling? Is there a thought? What are people thinking in that regard?
It's a great question, Aaron. Kim, go ahead.
Well, if I had it my way, I mean, I'm not even talking about a large home, but just a nice home and then just elbow space. I mean, if I could have 8 or 10 acres and just have a, you know, a moderate home, that would be my ideal, you know, just to have woods and that up north feeling. Um, you know, but that's my personal feeling. Again, that's why we kind of moved out here for a little elbow room. It doesn't have to be these huge stately homes. It could be just something moderate. Um, and just you enjoy the nature. I mean, there's a lot of deer out here. I see, you know, coyotes, I see turkeys, I see all those kinds of things. And I just don't want this area to turn into something like Sterling Heights, because that's where I came from. And it's just, you know, it's the 4th largest city in the area, and it's just subdivisions and you know, stamp sized lots and houses on top of houses. And hardly any parks. You know, we used to go to the schools to let the kids play in the playground there and have a little space. So I would rather see personally, you know, just, you know, like decent sized properties, you know, with me, you know, and it, again, it doesn't have to be these huge homes, but and I love the parks, you know, I think that's a great idea. I have a park that's being built behind me, which I would much rather have than a subdivision. But you know, that's my, not 2 cents, but $20. Thanks.
Thank you.
And Josh, if I could put a quick comment back in there, and Kim, I appreciate it. One of the things we see is that sometimes with a development that's able to produce more money for the developer, there's more flexibility for some of those tie-ins and for some of those bigger green spaces. I wouldn't necessarily say that's the way we're going, but we hear a lot about it in that maybe some of those larger parcels could be maintained as 7 or 8 acres of woodland and whatnot in conjunction with another development, because there's the ability for the developer to make their money elsewhere. I'm not saying it's the ideal, and there's definite trade-off, but I'm just curious if individual houses on 1 or 2 acre creates smaller lots and everybody's closer together, is that preferable to something that has an apartment, a 3-story apartment type condo development that's got way more land about it that leaves more space? Like it's a trade-off there. I'm not sure if I was able to properly communicate it, but that's kind of the differential I was kind of looking at and seeing if you had any thoughts on.
Janice, go ahead.
Well, when you're talking of condos and apartments, it's a lot more traffic. It's a lot of cars. I kind of get the senior center thing. I don't know how, busy that would be, but the traffic's already bad out here. And I know what you're saying with the green space, and it may look pretty and everything, but it's gonna bring more traffic. And that's kind of my view on building more apartments or townhouses or condos. So I don't know. Maybe the lots, a little bigger lots with homes. Again, like Kim said, they don't have to be mansions. We're on 8 acres and I have a 2,400 square foot house. It's a nice ranch, and nothing fancy, but it works. So that's my $20 worth.
Thanks, Janice. Marina, go ahead.
Okay. I don't know if I would like to see apartments and all that in here, unless it was like maybe on Hall Road or maybe 23 Mile Road, or if you did some apartments or attaching maybe in the downtown area, but not real high ones, maybe like 2 or 3 stories. I would like to see more green spaces between, like when I talk about these walkways, you know, I just see like, you know, they build everything even so close to the street. I would like to see the bike trails. I would like to see more gaps between the subdivisions, not that they're on each other, but there's a green space in between. For example, where I live, my husband had a plan to probably develop it sooner or later, but he was talking about maybe a house on maybe an acre or a house on a half an acre. I would like to see that more instead of things on top of each other. I don't know if we can ever do that. Everybody gets 10 acres, but I know here on Foss Road, it's really nice because some people have 2, some people have 5, some people have, 10 acres. And I don't know, what I see even in Shelby Township, what happens is even these people who have these large lots or acreage, somebody comes in and buys, and all of a sudden, again, like they're putting these condo units right next to each other, or these, what they call detached condos. And, maybe a couple areas like that, but I don't want it massive. That's one of the reasons, again, as everybody's saying, we came out here. Again, I would love to see a lot of this put more or less into the downtown area, a restaurant, a bakery, an ice cream parlor where you can go, now that you got the library coming down there. I think that some really neat things are happening there. I just don't want to see it like somebody said, Sterling Heights or East Point. I mean, I try to get away from that. I want to appreciate the nature, and I'm hoping that you're not thinking, if it's not all money, that's what I'm hoping. I hope is that you're want to create a community where people want to live and stay. And I don't want to get rid of the farmers either, because I love their produce. So I would like to find a way that we all could live together.
Great, thank you for that input.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to weigh in? Looks like John Galaxy, go ahead. Unmute yourself and you should be able to talk.
I'm not sure if you can hear me at this.
I can hear you.
Good. I had trouble connecting. I don't know if this question has already come up or not. I'm in the northeast quadrant, and you've been doing a great job you're redoing some of the roads and everything, but when they're redoing the roads, they're not getting any kind of bike lanes or anything. I realize, we're in a more of a wide open area with a lot of people that have more acreage, and sidewalks probably are not in the question. But if we could do a bike lane on the roads when they widen them, that would help a lot. I like the bicycle, but it's so dangerous. I got to go back and forth as cars are going back and forth, around me, or try to ride on a gravel road on North Avenue or something like that, and it's really dangerous.
All right, thank you for that input, John. Looks like Marie, go ahead if you can unmute yourself, should be able to talk. Marie, you need to unmute your phone or your computer. Well, I guess while we're waiting for Marie, anybody else wanted to weigh in?
Hello.
There you go. Go ahead, Marie.
I have a question on the area of 26 and North Avenue. What kind of zoning do we have there now?
Right now, I think there's a small piece that is commercial, and the rest is either residential or agriculture in that area.
Well, there used to be a store on the corner.
Yep.
And then part of it was commercial part of it was residential and wasn't rezoned or zoned big enough for commercial, to put any more commercial in there. So what are you going to do with that section?
Well, again, that's what we're here to talk about, to hear what the folks would like to see. I know we've heard mentioned that some people would like to see something like a party store or a gas station up that way off North Avenue, which, as you pointed out, is what kind of was there.
They got enough property, they can make their own utilities.
So now we're just taking input, so if you have,
Okay.
yeah, we're happy to hear it.
So that area in there is mostly residential?
Correct.
Good. Side of the road you're talking about. Oh, two. East side of North Avenue.
Hello?
Yes. We're here.
So the area in there is mostly residential.
That is correct.
We have 10 acres. We have 10 or 12 acres in that area. And that is staying residential, even though we have 10 or 12 acres. It used to be agricultural, and you guys changed it.
The current master plan that was adopted in 2008 shows it as residential. What this new master plan is going to, do with that, whether it changes it or leaves it the same, is to be determined. That's kind of why we're here tonight, to hear what you guys would like to see there. So it sounds like you're saying you would rather it not be residential. You might want something else there.
I have no idea. I disagree with the park on 26 Mile Road, because when I was a kid, my grandfather used to drive his cows over there and it was nothing but swampland. And to me, that was a big waste of money.
Well, thank you for the input this evening.
So,
Marina, go ahead.
Okay, I was just wondering, I don't know if this is discussed yet. Is there any discussion on is the bridge gonna be fixed? On 25 Mile Road that goes, and is Card Road ever gonna go all the way through?
So we did have some discussion on that. If you go to cultivatemacomb.com, you can see there's a link there to the discussion on roads and utilities that we had in October, where we do touch on that. But it is something that the county is aware of, but I don't think it's high on their radar at this time because of traffic levels that would go through there. I don't think can justify the cost of the bridge. Jim, I don't know if you want to weigh in on that.
Yeah, so the Card Road Bridge it's been out for too long to receive money from the federal government and from the state. So that would have to be completely locally funded. My understanding of talking with the Department of Roads is that it's about a $5 million bridge.
Wow. Mm-hmm.
The other bridge on 25, although it's only been out a couple of years, the county has been trying to get funding for it. The issue is that it doesn't score high enough compared to the other bridges that have problems to get on the funding list. So, right now, and I think it probably has to do with traffic. I think Josh is correct. But the county, I think as a matter of fact, I think I heard earlier this year that they stopped applying for funding because they're not getting it and they're not scoring high enough to even get close to getting the funding. There are just too many other bridges that score higher. So if that's the case and we do decide that we want to replace that bridge, then it would be locally funded. And again, that's probably around a $5 million bridge. So between the two of them, we're talking about $10 million plus. If you put the Card Road Bridge in, you'd probably be looking at paving Card Road, because right now it's a gravel road that really hasn't been maintained because the bridge isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably another $2 million. So you probably have to invest about $12 million to get that loop connected in that area. And it's really a very high price tag for what we'd be able to do. And I think the county and the township at this point are probably more focused on pushing Broughton Road through than making
Right.
that connection, just because of the expense. It's a lot more expensive to put those bridges in than to pave Broughton Road and Heidenreich Road and put that connection through to the town center.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Looks like Amelia maybe wants to talk. I know we tried to hear Amelia earlier and couldn't hear you. If you're there, go ahead and speak. I'm not hearing anything from Amelia. Anybody else have anything they want to add or any last questions before we wrap this up? Janice, go ahead.
Hi, I remember you mentioning earlier that there's a Macomb Township Center meeting tomorrow night. Is it tomorrow night? Is that public?
That's correct. So
is that listed on this Cultivate Macomb site?
So the specific link for that is not on there. We, much like this meeting tonight, not to say that it's not a public meeting, but we really wanted to target the audience to those who
in that area
live there. And so that's kind of what we're doing for tomorrow. Those who live there and own property there, we're kind of our target audience. That being said, if any of you would like to participate in that, let me know, and we can send you that link. At this point, the more the merrier to get feedback and that input.
I would like to join that if possible.
Okay, I think I should be able to get your contact information since you logged into this meeting. Did you provide an email when you logged in?
Yes.
Okay, I should.
Yeah, registered. Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? Amelia, looks like you're on a phone this time?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I apologize. I was having technical difficulties with my computer. I was wondering, so I'm at 25 in Fairchild, and I know you guys a few years ago, you redid the bridge. What I was wondering is there any plans to pave 25 miles sewage anywhere, the sewer system anywhere in that area? And is that area considered floodplain?
Jim, I don't know if you know the answer to some of those.
As far as sewer goes, sewer would have to come from, right now, the sewer for that's intended for that area is at 23 and North Avenue. And so there'd be a long stretch of sewer that would have to be built in order to get to that area. With regard to floodplain, I don't know specifically in that area if there's floodplain. I know that the drain, there's a county drain that runs through there. There may be a floodplain associated with it. I don't know if you can zoom into that area or not, Josh.
It's 25 in Fairchild, so it'd be roughly here.
Yeah, up in here, right there.
Yeah, I don't think.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's zooming in on everyone's screen or just mine.
Yeah, I don't see any. It may be that it's in the channel, or it's just not. This map doesn't show it in that kind of detail. It's something that we would have to look up, or you can even look it up on the county's website in their GIS. They have that map.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for the question and for being persistent to get through. I know we tried to do that.
Yeah, it was a little tough. Sorry. Thank you.
Janice.
Yes.
Looked like you had your hand up again.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Maybe I hit it by accident. I don't know.
Kim, go ahead.
Hi, so Mr. Van Tiffelen, you mentioned about Broughton Road and you know our concerns about the traffic on Foss and then Whitney Park opening up. It may be hard to answer this with COVID going on and everything else, but what is the general game plan on Broughton being, you know, completed all the way to 24 Mile Road to help alleviate the traffic on Foss?
So the township went to the county a number of years ago and requested that Broughton Road be pushed through. Through a series of discussions, it became clear to us that they were more agreeable to doing Garfield first, because Garfield is primary. The Garfield right away that would be needed in order to build the road was primarily owned by developers who would benefit by the road going through. So they told the township that we could do Garfield first, and then the agreement is that we would circle back and do Broughton and Heidenreich after that. So Garfield will, if everything goes according to plan, Garfield would be done in 3 phases, starting with the construction of the first phase next year between 22 and 23 Mile Road, and move north towards 25 from there. So Broughton and Heidenreich are, farther down, the road as far as a couple, 3-4 years from now. Now that could change. There could be some sections of Garfield that we're unable to secure the right of way, and then we would go back and look at Broughton and Heidenreich. The issue with Broughton and Heidenreich, I think in the county's mind, has to do with right of way acquisition. It's a much more difficult right of way acquisition process, because we're going to be going through basically farm fields, one of which is a centennial farm, and those are, the farmer almost has to be ready to sell, and because you're going right through the middle of their business essentially.
Right.
But it's a high priority for us. We want to do it. It will definitely help the town center go if that road gets pushed through, and we recognize that.
Yeah, for sure. As we have talked, our concerns about once Whitney Park opens up and all the traffic that'll be coming in through there, with some of the popular attractions that are going to be on that property, with the splash pad especially, and pickleball. So, it is, obviously on our minds, for us that live here. It was also mentioned in one of the first Cultivate Macomb meetings about an intersection light going on, being put up at Foss and at Card. Is there a certain timeline that will happen? Will that happen by the time the park will be open? I know COVID is kind of putting a delay on quite a few things, but is that kind of the general idea or the plan for having those intersection lights being put up?
So the intersection improvements have been requested by the township. It's on a long list, and I think I went through that during my first Cultivate Macomb meeting. Based on a meeting that we had with the Department of Roads a couple of weeks ago, they should be in the process of putting together a cost sharing agreement between the township and the county for that to be constructed next year. That's the game plan. So once we have that, we'll go before the township board. The township board will hopefully approve it, and that will allow the county to start spending money and putting a design together and go out to bid for construction. But yeah, the idea is to do both of those intersections next year.
That would be fantastic, because as you know, you travel that area quite a bit, and and you've heard all of us residents speak locally on how dangerous it is, and that is great news to hear. Thank you.
Many of us go through those intersections on a daily basis. We understand.
Oh, for sure. I do. I know what you're saying. Thank you.
Thank you. Marina, go ahead.
In addition to that, because I also live on Foss Road, and I don't know how you go about this. Is there any way to get speed limit signs put around here on 24 and like Foss Road around here? I mean, people use Foss Road as a speedway, and also 24. I mean, I was going the speed limit, let's say 55 down 24, and people are passing me up going 60, 65 miles an hour or more. And even on Foss Road, they think it's a strip because it's only 1 mile. They're always speeding down the street. So I don't know why we don't have speed limit signs in this area. That's just something to add since they're putting up the traffic lights. And I'm happy to hear about that.
Thank you for that input.
Mhm.
I don't see anybody else with their hand raised. I appreciate everyone's time this evening. I think with that, we're gonna call it a day. Again, thank you everyone for participating. Your input is very important to us. And we look forward to speaking more in the future. And please go to cultivatemacomb.com to follow the process. Take the survey if you haven't already. Submit photos in the photo contest. Again, cultivatemacomb.com. And with that, I will close the evening. Thanks everyone again. Have a good evening.